Julia Minamata. So excited to see her. I'm so excited she's done. Julia, how long have you been working on the Crimson Diamond? How long has this been?
It's it's been literally forever. Forever. No, okay, it's not been forever, but it feels like forever, which is
Yeah.
kind of the same thing,
I mean,
right?
each little dot there. Tell
Every
us about
dot.
your pixel art style because you did the art on this game. Did you ever end up hiring any help or did you do the whole thing on your own?
I got help with music, and of course I've got testers, but everything else I did myself. So it's a lot of like, yeah, leaning back in your chair, rubbing your chin, and just is that where that pixel should go, or should it go that other place? And that's kind of the work process that's been happening, and maybe that's why it's taken me so long. But the important thing is that we're done, and we're ready to go.
Amazing. So I'm looking at your background and there's so many little dots there. Did you use some sort of cloning tool to just like copy and paste, or you didn't hand do every little dot on that grid in the wall
No,
behind
no,
you?
no, no,
Okay.
no.
Phew.
So what there was is there's like a layer mask of like a checkerboard, and then like little small checkerboard squares, and then I just kind of mask out what I want and what I don't want. So I didn't like literally place every single one, but a lot of them I did, but some of those ones I didn't.
And the animations, those characters, people don't always know this. I've been thinking about hand-drawn animation ever since I can remember. So, ever since I first saw Flipbook, where you see every drawing is its own moment in time, and you flow all those moments together in order to gain the illusion of motion. You've had to do that with not only frames, but little dots on each frame to make everything move. And if one dot is out of place in an animation like this, it looks like a flicker and it kills your brain. So it's one of these things that people don't always know. When it looks smooth and you don't even think about the fact that it's animating, that's how you know a lot of work went into it. So it's really invisible work for a lot of people. But you have made that invisible work visible by doing all these amazing art streams as you've gone. Have you found that that process of showing people how the sausage is made as it goes has really worked to like energize people and get them involved with what you're doing?
I think so. It's done a number of things for me that have been all super beneficial. One of them is, yeah, people, they get to see the process. They get invested in the whole thing. I've been streaming it for 4 years. Only the introductory art. Streaming for 4 years, people, they come every week and we sit down together. I do a little bit and we chat, and then that's it for the week. And that's been a really good way of getting people connected to it. It's a really good way of me getting a little bit of work done while I can enjoy my social outlet. That's also a nice part. And I think also overall, it's really nice when people just get to see things being made, because I think sometimes people have this idea where something just springs fully formed. But yeah, people get this impression that it's easy and it's a fast thing, and they don't think about when they criticize something that there's someone that's human behind that, and that's a lot of hard work, and that person really tried their best to do something that's good.
Mm.
And hopefully seeing that the process as they go through and just seeing like how much time and dedication it actually does take, people can appreciate the things that we get to enjoy more. Like they get to appreciate entertainment and games more and books more and everything more.
Yeah, because it really is an extension of you. And have you found that that has changed at all as you've opened up the development process and have been so welcoming to ideas of people and also kind of visually showing what you're doing all the time just invites feedback sometimes, whether you want it or not. So has that changed the trajectory of the creation of the game at all? Did you end up integrating like fan feedback or any sort of input from fans into the game as you've been making it?
As much as I can reasonably do, because I'm limited firstly by the fact that I'm the only one doing it, and I'm also limited by my limited knowledge, having self-taught myself to do all this stuff. Whenever I can do that, I do that. An example of that would be keyboard shortcuts. It's a text parser game. There's a lot of typing, but sometimes like, people, either for dexterity issues or for other accessibility issues, they can't really type that well, and it's a bit of a struggle. There are keyboard shortcuts for very commonly used commands like open door, talk to person. Those things have been shortened, or there's like hotkeys like Control A will be asked about. I
Oh, it speaks to me.
can't. Oh,
Yeah, he's extremely social with just this
oh,
area of me. So we'll see what he
oh.
does. So are there cats in your game? I feel like there are.
There is one cat I wanted to have. Actually, well, there's technically two cats in the game. One of them
Hmm.
is an actual well, not real, but in the game real cat. where in the museum basement there's a cat sort of lying down at the bottom shelf of a shelf, and it's a sort of this museum basement is my Easter egg room where a lot of adventure game Easter eggs are, because adventure gamers love Easter eggs in their games, and I didn't really have them spread throughout the game. I kind of concentrated them in this one room. And
Mm.
one of them is this black cat. He's got blinking yellow eyes, and it's a tribute to King's Quest 3, Manannan's cat, the black cat there. One more cat in the game is in there is sort of an oil painting of like an adorable black and white tuxedo cat, and that was our last family cat, Dido,
Oh.
who has made her way into a bunch of things. She's made it into my game. She's made it into cross stitching. She's made it into two patchwork quilts, and also another game, Inspector Waffles. She is a wool ball player as one of the little collectible cards you can get in that game. She's
Who
gotten
made,
around.
who made Inspector Waffles? What is that?
Colossal Games made Inspector Waffles, and it's this adorable detective game where it's sort of a world that is inhabited by dogs and cats, and they still have names like Fluffy and Meatballs. They have Officer, Meatballs and Fluffy. I heartily recommend that one. And Yen is a friend of mine, and he invited me to add some art to it. So of course, I love cats. We're gonna do this.
Amazing. Yeah, you've been able to work on so many projects, at least it feels like on the sidelines. You are often saying, oh, and I'm also working on this on the side as you're continuing this colossal project. And I realized there may be listeners out there who haven't listened to your prior episode of this show where we talked about the Crimson Diamond. Let's review for people again what it is so they know. You mentioned
Yeah.
it's a text parser game, but now that there's some shortcuts, it's maybe point and click ish at times, or maybe less, maybe no. But yes, tell us about the
Yeah.
Crimson Diamond yet again.
Sure, I'm always happy to do that. I'm always happy
Mm,
to talk about it. Because there's always people who this is the first time hearing about it, and I'm excited when I can find people who are like that.
mm,
The game is a cozy mystery adventure game. It is kind of a throwback. It looks and sounds like the games from like the late 80s, early 90s, which had a very specific color palette, this EGA 16 color palette. It had a very specific musical sense or sound that was generated by something called the Roland MT32, which my musician used when he was working on it, actually composing music and sound effects for that. And it does all that, and it's going to really evoke that era, and that's like a for me was this golden warm fuzzy childhood era that I enjoyed so much. But then it also is going to take into account some of the game design improvements we've made over the years, and lessons we've learned about how to make things play better with a little less friction and still be enjoyable. That's what I've done. I wanted to make something that looked like the old stuff, and it plays like you remember the old stuff playing, but just
mm.
but just a little bit smoother.
And who's it about? Who's the star? And
Yes.
does she something I haven't found out yet, so I'm on the edge of my seat about when you create a video game, you have the capacity, as you said, to put cats in, you can put ghosts in, you could put anything in, but you also have grounded the game in an initial sense of reality. Like you feel as though it is a real, lovingly realistic recreation of the real world of Canada. Does it take
Yes.
place in Canada? I
Yeah,
thought so.
it
Yeah.
certainly does. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And at the same time, there's just enough left unknown and enough left abstract that as playing the demo, I never knew like, am I gonna uncover like a talking skeleton or something? It could go into Monkey Island style territory or King's Quest territory at any time, I feel like. So it's fun to know that you don't know what to expect. But now that it's almost out, it's coming out next week.
Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. August the 15th. Yes.
Yeah, when you define what kind of mystery it is, it's deep seated in the Agatha Christie feel
Hmm.
for sure. But she got a little spooky sometimes.
Hmm.
Can people expect any spookiness, or do you want to keep it a secret? Well, how much do you want to talk about that?
I will say that I kept it fairly grounded in terms of what the situations are and what the setting are. And it's kind of interesting because I've been super careful about keeping the details of the actual plot under wraps for the whole
Mm-hmm.
production time. When I stream, I never do spoilers. Even when I show the new trailer, which does have clips from later on in the game, I always tell people if you don't want spoilers, just please look away from the screen for a minute. I'll tell you when to look back. I'm
Mm.
very like respectful and careful about all of that. Only my testers know what actually happens in the game. Actually, that's not true. Only my testers and Roberta Williams knows what happens in the game, because I got the pleasure to meet Roberta Williams at the Adventure Game Hotspot Fanfare a couple weeks back, and I got her to sign my Colonel's Bequest big box. She said, "Yeah, I'll give your demo a try." And so I sent her my demo, and she played it, and she wrote some a beautiful paragraph that I'm going to share. I'll be sharing soon about what she said about my game. And she wanted to know, it was the demo that I sent her, and she said, "Well, I've been looking for information about your game, and I see it all over the place, but I don't know the certain, things like." People think, well, she asked me, is there a murder in this game? Because people always assume there's a murder in a game like this. And I haven't said anything. No one
Mm.
knows except for
Hmm.
the testers. I told Roberta though, and I told her to keep it a secret. And she said she was gonna lock up her mouth and throw away the key. So
So for
she
people who don't
knows.
know who Roberta is, who
Yeah.
is she and who is she to you?
Roberta Williams.
Then Julia became overwhelmed with emotions about meeting her hero Roberta Williams and completing her game after years of work, so she and Jonathan had a private crying break, and it was good.
This wouldn't exist without her.
Mm.
Yeah, this game would not exist without her. She was this pioneer, this person where you said, oh, there's this person on the back of this game, and it's this lady, and she's written this thing, she's designed this thing. And not only did she do that, she did that for this other developers that worked with Sierra. You find Laurie and Corey Cole on the back of those boxes. You find Mark Crow and Scott Murphy. You find, I love the fact that she did that for her creators. She considered them so important, and she wanted them, yeah, to be visible. And the fact that I think we have a lot of affection for those creators nowadays is because they put them on the back of the box, and they did show that these are the people making this thing. And I think that's so important. um
Mm.
Roberta also, of course, she made King's Quest 4, which had a female protagonist. Laura Bow 1, Colonel's of Bequest. Laura Bow 2, The Dagger of Amon-Ra. They both had female protagonists, and knowing that, yeah, she was this lady making games, and that was a big deal. And getting to play an adventure game with a lady protagonist was a big deal. There was a time when I didn't really play adventure games when they became kind of 3D. I kind of lost interest in that, but they stuck in my head for decades after that. And when I started to think about pixel art and make my own pixel art, I was thinking about what were the things that I enjoyed the most? What gave me the fondest childhood memories? And it was, Sierra. It was LucasArts, of course, but also the Sierra look was something that I was really particularly fond of. And it just came back to me like, this is what I want to try to do. So yeah, meeting of Roberta, I got to award her. She was inducted into the Adventure Game Hall of Fame for Mystery House, and to be able to stand on a stage and to give her an award for Mystery House, which is a mystery game that's completely trailblazing, knowing that I would not have made what I did without Mystery House, and then by extension, King's Quest and Colonel's Quest and everything that followed. That was just a real special moment for sure. But yeah, like someone did a video of me presenting the award to her, but I presented it terribly. Like I was trying to look at the audience and look at the cue card at the same time. So like popping my head up and down like this. It's Yeah. And also I was the first one presenting anything. And so I didn't know that there were actually like awards tucked into the podium to give. And so I look over to the side, and Alex, that one of the organizers, she's like miming, pull out, give. And I'm like, oh, I gotta give something, because I didn't know. I didn't actually, first of all, I didn't even know she was gonna come up on stage. I thought I was just gonna say it and we're all gonna clap, and then I was gonna leave. And then I didn't know I was even gonna actually give her something, like actually physically give her something. So yeah, it was kind of surprising, but yeah, super, super cool moment, I gotta say. Like it's total full circle moment in my life. Like if you told me that I would be on a stage giving Roberta Williams an award, and then she'd also, play my game and then write a nice paragraph for my Steam store page, I would be blown away.
That's incredible. There's so many pieces of it that I love to hear that you so deeply and emotionally care about and look up to another person and can see them as someone who affected you so strongly and like give them the credit for that in your mind, and then also have this moment where you get to physically give them an award that shows that appreciation, that you got to embody the appreciation that you feel so deeply, and also that now you're in this situation where you are her peer. She sees you as someone else who is following in her footsteps and clearly sees how you are new to it, as she's been doing it for 30 or 40 years or something, but at the same time sees you as like continuing what she started and wants to see you as someone who is getting up to where she has been and is going to be someone who, if you haven't gotten this already, I'm certain there's people that look up to you and say, wow, I can't believe she does this. Now maybe I can do it too. And you're continuing this process of, it's easy for me to say as a privileged guy on the outside, but watching and getting on the show to talk to so many women about what it's like to try to enter this space, making games, playing games, that is so often fueled by kind of this ugly deformation of what people's concept of an alpha male is, and no girls club mentality, all this stuff. To break through that and to find an audience, as Roberta did so early on, and as you said, to put the artists first. There was this big movement in the 80s. Electronic Arts did it, LucasArts did it, where they actually like put the credits of the creators of the games first and foremost. You boot up the game and it says like a game by so and so. Then that just kind of stopped for like 35 years, and now you're a part of helping to bring that back by being a real face forward game developer, showing people who makes it and how they make it.
I feel really lucky because well, one of the panels where they were talking about how they make the production of these games, and especially if they even had like a remote office where they were FedExing each other back and forth things and making the tools as they were making the games. They were completely innovating. And I am so grateful that I am making games now where the tools are so much easier to use. I couldn't have done this without something like Adventure Game Studio to make it in. I couldn't have done this without the internet to teach me how to use Adventure Game Studio, or the forums where I could ask questions when I had problems with Adventure Game Studio or anything like that. I love the fact you mentioned creators and encouraging creators. I love the fact when someone says to me that they were inspired to try pixel art or try game development or anything like that because of watching either my streams or seeing the development of the Crimson Diamond over time. That's incredible to me. And although, I think there's this bit of a trade-off because now that it's so much easier to make games and so many more people are making games, it's so much harder for your game to become visible and like rise above and do well. Back in those days, it was really hard to make games, really hard to distribute games and all the rest of it. But that meant that when you did bring out a game, like tons of people are going to see it and enjoy it. But I think in overall, I prefer how it is now because I want people's voices to be heard. Like I want people's unique perspectives to be shared. When before maybe you'd have people saying, "Oh, don't, we're not going to publish this or we're not going to do this." Because I did this, on my own. I self-funded it and self-published it. I didn't have to ask anybody for permission to do this. I didn't have to ask, well, I'm making this text parser game and you can't port it to consoles because you need a keyboard to play it. And also it's got 160,000 words of writing in it, which means it's going to be really expensive to localize. And even when you do try to localize it, you're going to have to implement it into the text parser. That's a whole other thing. No one would say yes to that. Like, why would they? It's also, by the way, it's a really niche genre. Adventure games like right now, adventure games is a relatively niche genre compared to other genres. No one's going to give me money for that. And if they did, they're going to say, you're going to need to make this in like 6 months or something.
160,000 words?
Yes, yeah. I didn't know that until someone figured out how to pull like the actual it's not the code. Someone pulled the writing away from the code and then helped me like put it into like a Word document so I could check it for spelling and grammar and everything. Sure. I didn't even know how to do that. I don't know how to do a lot of things actually with the coding. I know just enough to finish the game and like barely to finish the game. But what's been wonderful, and I'm so grateful, is I have these wonderful testers who are super technical and also like really keen on playing the game and finding those bugs, but also helping me with stuff that I would never have imagined how to even do that. I didn't know how many words of writing there were in this game until like last month, really.
Wow. And it is a lot of words. It is novels
Yeah.
worth of words.
Yeah.
And they have to interact with each other. So for people, just to review text parser, you've been swimming, not even swimming, submerged in the world of text parser for years now. But for people who don't know, you actually type in what you want the character to interact with and do, and there needs to be a response. If one of the moments that's inevitable in any adventure game, and this is including like Resident Evil 1 on the PS1, you'd walk up to a table or something, or a toilet, and you'd be like, I don't want to use that now. Or just like, I'm not interested. And you have to be like, oh, I wanted there to be an interaction. Yeah. You have to think about making interactions for everything in order to the world to be grounded in reality. Every time you hit a moment where the response to trying to interact with something by typing about it hits a dead end, but it feels like an uninspired dead end, like no thank you or something.
Yeah.
It makes you like, oh, I'm playing a video game. You get pushed out of the world, and you have done so much to make everything have a thing when you when you type about it.
Whenever someone plays the game and I watch them play and they try something and then they don't get a actual crafted response and they just get the generic response of, oh, you can't do that. I'm like, oh no, I wish. And it makes me want to add everything that I see people try. And I can't do that, but I have that desire because that's what's so great about the text parser is this illusion of limitless possibility. And that's why I love it. And that's why it's my favorite way of interacting with adventure games. It's a tough one to convince people to try. It's a tough one to convince people to fund all these things. Well, I assume I never even really asked, but I assume it's going to be tough to ask people to fund that type of a thing. But because, yeah, I was doing it on my own. I didn't have to ask anybody or I didn't need to justify my whatever my design choices were because there were design choices that I made that are still giving me bugs and trouble to this day that they add nothing to the game actual gameplay experience, like to the critical path or the main path of it. But I put in because I said this is something that has been missing in a lot of games that I've been playing that I want to do, and I'm going to put it in my game whether it's useful or not. And an example of that is sitting down in the game. You cannot sit in a lot of adventure games. And I didn't like that. And so I made it so that you can sit in just about any, most of the rooms in the lodge you can sit in. And it does nothing. It doesn't solve any problems. It doesn't advance the story. It's just there because I wanted it to be, and it's giving me bugs. Even just today, I'm getting bugs of sitting and combining other actions. But on the whole, I'm going to tell you that it's worth it because it's the kind of experience that you can have with a game where not everything is so streamlined and so optimized to being, if it's not essential for the gameplay, then we're going to dispense with it. I didn't have to do that. I had the luxury of doing silly things in my game where you can type spin and she just spins around on the spot just for no reason. Stuff like that. And I mean that's a good thing because people like love that stuff. It also can be a bad thing because yeah, the development's just stretched on for more than 6 years and whatnot. But I think on the whole, I'm glad that I went the way that I went.
Yeah, you've created something now. You created a lot of things. I'd love to quickly let people know about some of the other games you've worked on as you've gone. Oh, why am I Zalaver's names for his
Yes.
games?
Yes.
I always am afraid I'm going to say both his name and the name of his games incorrectly because I
Yes.
respect him so much, and
Yeah.
I'm on the spot, tongue twistering. Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator? No.
Yes. No, you're right.
Did I
You
get
got
it?
it. Yes, you got it.
Unbelievable. I have the Switch cartridge. As soon as I found out you did
Yeah.
art on it, I had to buy
Oh,
it and like flip through the stickers it comes with and whatnot. So that was one game you did
yeah.
pixel art for.
Yeah.
What are some of the other ones you've worked on while you've been working on this game?
Yes. Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator was the first one I worked on with Strange Scaffold. Second one was Witch Strandings, which is I did other pixel art for that one. And then the third one was a Playdate Sweet Baby Strange Scaffold co-production type of thing called Recommendation Dog, which is free on the Playdate catalog store. So
I
anyone can
have
play it.
Recommendation Dog. I don't know if I knew you worked on
Oh,
that. It's so
seriously?
well done. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
thank
black and
you.
white pixel art and it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, those were the three that I did. I also in the time in the development time, I also produced the EGA developers portraits for the limited run games Monkey Island anthology. I did a bunch of the portraits for that.
Whoa, cool.
But nothing lately because I've kind of been really focusing over the last couple of years to just finishing my thing. But I love working on that other stuff. It's so much fun.
Yeah, you've met so many people, and
Yeah.
people in this industry, I find that the ones who actually care about people, when they find another one, they're like, don't let go, don't ever leave me. Like, let's work on a thing next week. And Delaware is definitely one of those folks.
Oh,
So I'm
he's
not
great.
surprised he
Yeah.
wants to keep working with you too. We're running out of time on the Zoom
Mm.
call already. I'm shocked. I want to look forward to the future with you and support you as you move forward in this wild new future of launching your game that you've worked on for a fourth or a fifth or a sixth of your life or whatever it's been. It's wild, right? Like this is you. It's gonna live forever. your game is going to be a part of game history forever now. It's going to be something that all enthusiasts of the genre at least discover and think about and hear about, and hopefully also play. And this is a genre that's survived for longer than a lot of genres. Not a lot of Pac-Man likes being made today. Not a lot of Mappy likes. I don't know if you played Mappy. It's an arcade game about a cat, a mouse escaping from the cat cops. Long story, not worth it right now. So when you're old, you've seen genres come and go. This genre has survived in part because of people like you carrying the torch, but now that torch is being passed off into the world. What are you anticipating? What are your hopes and what are your fears about all this?
I hope that more people make adventure games, make story-based narrative games, tell their stories, share their stories and their experiences. Whether it's just a commercial game or a hobby game or anything, I love to see that stuff. I just personal expression, something that's completely unique to you. And given the chance, I would wholly recommend people to create, even if it's not even just a game, if it's art, it's always a very enriching experience. And also when you share your art with other people, that kind of, first of all, I think it kind of makes it more real in a sense, because it doesn't just live in your head. You have to bring it out physically, and then you will connect with people that feel the same way, but with like the same way as you about things, that see things the same way as you and have the same ideas and hopes and things like that. Making my game and sharing the game has been a whole experience that's even secondary to the development, but it's been almost just as important, because I have, like you said, I've met so many people, I've traveled, I've experienced so many things, I've learned so much new stuff just from this whole thing, just being a creative person and sharing that thing. And I think if you're a creative person and you share that out into the world, it brings so much more than just that creative thing. It's gonna connect you with so much more than that.
It's been your life, and it's been an adventure in so many different ways, and you made an adventure game. I almost want you to make a game about what it's been like to make a game for the past 6 years. Yeah, I don't want to dwell on this too much, but I always just reach out to me, Julia, if you experience this thing I've seen so many developers go through over the past 19 or so years that I've been talking to game devs, where like the game is done and they're like, now what is my life? What do I get worried about? What do I get excited about? What do I fill my mind and body and soul with now that the game, which was my life, is done? And I hope you just get filled with cash suddenly. So you're like, now I'll work on the next game with all this money, because as I know, I expect that's what your first thought would be, like, how can I use what I've gained in order to create more and share more. But regardless, I really hope that you keep in touch, and I'm so excited to see what happens, and I'm so excited to spread the word about what you've done, and just so excited you've done it. I'm so happy we've gotten to share this moment of just knowing that it's done, and that no matter what happens from here, I hope that you're a roaring success with what you've worked to do.
That's what I tell people. I say to them, no, I cannot control what happens when it gets out there. I can't. I've tried my best to share it out with people. I've also tried my best to make the best thing that I can. And just like I was saying, all that secondary stuff that came along with developing the games, I consider it a success no matter what happens. And you're totally right with that. It's been a net gain in my life, and I can't. I'm glad that I tried, and I'm glad that it's finished. I'm very proud of it, and I'm proud of myself.
Yeah. What better note to end on than that? I'm proud of you. You're proud of you. Everyone's proud. Go play the Crimson Diamond.
Thank you.
And I'm